Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Apple, Spotify, or Google, please leave a 5-star rating and review. It supports the podcast and it doesn't cost you anything. This content is brought to you by Uphold, which is a platform I've been using since 2017. You can buy, sell, trade cryptocurrencies, as well as precious metals and assets and other assets such as equities. So Uphold is a great platform. I can vouch for it. I've been using it for a long time. They have 10 plus million users, 250 plus cryptocurrencies, and they're available in 150 countries. As with all exchanges, you can buy and sell on them, but I highly recommend you custody your own crypto. Not your keys, not your coins. If you'd like to learn more about this platform, please visit the link in the description. All right, my friends, now more than ever, we need Ripple to win the lawsuit that the SEC has filed against them over the asset XRP. Things are really getting to a boiling point here where the SEC is coming after everything in crypto, and we need to get them exposed. And there's a lot on the line with this Ripple lawsuit. And Ripple's legal counsel, Stuary Alderoty, was interviewed by Blockworks, and he had some very interesting statements that I want to share with you all, some relating to summary judgment timeline, as well as what he would recommend to other companies and crypto projects. So here's the headline. Ripple counsels advice to crypto firms get out of the US. After spending the past roughly 30 months building Ripple's case, Stuary Alderoty has lots of tips, and he's not shy about sharing them. He said, the first piece of advice you give somebody who's thinking about a project is don't launch it in the US because the rules are unclear. Stuary Alderoty, chief legal officer at Ripple, said in an interview with Blockworks Thursday, go to a jurisdiction where the rules are clear, not light touch, but clear. So he also said, I do get calls, he said, asking for a friend. What would you do if you got a Wells notice? He said, don't trust these guys. Speaking of the SEC, he said, it's not a level playing field. So he's absolutely right there. It's exactly the point he was getting at in Alderoty's viral tweet Monday about the SEC chair Gary Gensler declaring everything but Bitcoin as security in a New York Magazine interview. Gensler has his mind made up before the enforcement action is even filed. And that's a problem, Alderoty argued. Here's a quote, they should not be prejudging the outcome of unresolved issues, Alderoty said. They certainly should not be doing so in a very public way because it corrupts the process. It corrupts the perception of the process. But guys, we all know the SEC is not here to protect retail investors. We've seen the actions. We've seen the statements. Gary Gensler is working for the banking financial incumbents. He's putting up roadblocks, slowing down crypto so these big players can catch up. And he's using this ambiguity period of no clear regulations to go around and shake down companies like the mob and collect settlements and fines, right? He doesn't want you to know the clear guidelines. He doesn't want you to know the speed limit. He's just saying, I'll be watching. So, blah, 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 right? And then he's just going around shaking folks down like the mob. Now, Stuart gave some statements, regarding summary judgment, when we can expect that. Here's the statement Blockworks got. A summary judgment is expected any day. Alderoty said maybe as soon as the end of this month. So March, it looks like it's going to be a key month, my friends. And maybe this is why the SEC has been ramping up their enforcement actions, because they're trying to get as many of them in the door before they maybe take a loss here. I don't know. I do believe Ripple's going to win this, even if it drags out further and further. And we need Ripple to win, my friends. We need them to come out successfully from this. And the rest of the market can use that as a foundation to fight back on the SEC. And also, I think it's going to bring a bigger spotlight on the SEC because there's a lot of baggage and skeletons in the closet the SEC doesn't want folks to know, especially with Bill Hinman, his emails and documents and communications as it relates to his conflict of interest with the Ethereum Foundation, Simpson Thacher, and so forth. The SEC does not want that information out there. But boy, I hope it comes out, and I hope they all look like idiots. And when I say that, I mean those who are anti-crypto and working for the incumbents. I'm not talking, for example, Hester Person, those who are trying to, find a balanced approach and provide the clear guidance, but more so on Gary Gensler, who's been running around, doing his victory laps on these BS fines and enforcement actions. So some other statements. As for Ripple and XRP, there are now, broadly speaking, 3 ways it could go, Alderoty said. 1, the judge could side with Ripple. 2, the judge decides with the SEC. Or 3, the judge says there are disputed facts and the case needs to go to trial. He said, it's not an issue of fraud or market manipulation. It's a question of law, Alderoty said. If the judge sides with the SEC, Ripple can and will immediately appeal. The case would go before the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, and then the next step would be the Supreme Court. There are a lot of ifs between now and the Supreme Court case, but Alderoty likes his odds. Here's a quote, I would be supremely confident that this is a winner in the Supreme Court, not so much because of the crypto issues, but because of the guarding against building an administrative state, he said in a nod to the court's current conservative majority. A win in the summary judgment would mean Ripple has room to expand domestically. Final quote here from Stuart, we would have this incredible business opportunity in the United States that is evergreen for us, he said. So just imagine how many banks and companies in the US want to work with Ripple and use XRP and ODL, but they can't because of what's happening. And, that aside, Ripple winning this would be huge for the crypto industry. It would be massive, guys. And we need it to happen. I don't care if you hate Ripple, you hate XRP, it doesn't matter. We are all in the same boat here, trying to escape the SEC and their draconian overreach. Gary Gensler is coming after everything, stablecoins, staking. He wants to come after NFTs. So it's an all-out fight here, and we have to come together. Divided we fall, united we stand. And I'm going to share some news that we got some exchanges now trying to ramp up their offense against the SEC. Now, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, he was interviewed by Bloomberg. Here's some quotes he shared. He said, Kaylee Lenz, who's a reporter, asked if the U.S. doesn't get its act together, is all of this crypto going offshore? Brad said, it already is. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Crypto moving offshore is not good for American innovation, period, full stop. So he's absolutely right there. Now, here's an example of how dirty and what a weasel, corrupt regulator Gary Gensler is. So Gary Gensler boycotts the SEC Speaks conference. For 50 years, this conference has been an annual tradition where the SEC chairman and division heads explained the SEC's objectives. The SEC officials would typically answer a few tough questions from those of us in the securities bar who represent clients before the SEC. That's what accountable government look like. So this whole thing is canceled because dirty Gary Gensler is hiding at home. He's a coward. And once again, you see what we're dealing with here, guys? Full incompetence, no accountability. And I hope that Congressman Bill Huizenga, Tom Emmer, and these folks bring Gary Gensler in and put him on the hot seat, and they start cutting funding or whatever it is they need to do to hold him accountable. Because just look at this, guys. He knows the questions are going to come, so he's dodging it, right? He once again, no clarity. He just wants ambiguity in market. He can go around and take his pound of flesh from whichever company and projects he picks out that day. Just despicable. This guy has got to get out of there. We got to get him out. Now, the good thing, as I mentioned before, is that the crypto industry is ready to fight. So we got a Kraken executive who said they're ready to push back. So Coinbase and Kraken are confident tokens listed on their platforms are not securities regulator leaders from other exchanges said. So really, really great to hear this. And I hope they, form a bigger coalition. I've been talking about this for so long. If they come together, all these U.S. crypto companies, and they sue the SEC, that will go a far way. I tell you, if all these companies started suing the SEC, would it be Circle, Coinbase, and so forth, right? It would have Gary's head spinning, and it would put them in a lot of problems, the SEC. So you got to put the pressure on them so that they start doing the right things. It's not that we want to abolish the SEC or whatever it may be, because we do know the SEC has a job to do, and that is to protect investors. And we need to, get them back to that core mission. And because they're not doing that, and especially under Gary Gensler. So let me share some statements here. And as enforcement actions alleging unregistered securities offerings heat up in the US, Coinbase and Kraken are confident tokens listed on their platforms are not securities. Regulatory leaders on the exchanges said Thursday. Here's a quote: "We're comfortable that the products we are offering in the US are not securities." Scott Burgess, or Bodges, if I'm saying that right, Vice President of Global Regulatory Policy at Coinbase, said during a panel discussion at the Milken Institute Future of Digital Assets Symposium in Washington, D.C. today. And Jonathan Jackim, if I'm saying that right, Global Head of Policy at Kraken, agreed, when it comes to advancing exchange policy, leaders need to think about how to adjust current laws to fit crypto, he added. So I hope they start taking actions, and I hope they sue the SEC. That's the going on the offensive, right? Even if the SEC says, hey, this is this and that, this token and whatever, but suing them for clarity, because you're not telling us the full guidelines of what's a security and what's not. Now, here's another interesting statement here that shows what a mess the SEC is. So the Voyager bankruptcy is going on, right? You all know about Voyager and the situation there. This is similar to Celsius and FTX. Well, the Voyager bankruptcy judge excoriates SEC in court today. The judge said he was absolutely shocked at the SEC's objection to the Voyager bankruptcy plan, because the SEC has or was asking Voyager to prove a negative, that the plan doesn't violate securities laws, with little guidance from the SEC itself. See, right? This judge who is trying to figure out the bankruptcy stuff, the retail investors are the ones who are getting hurt here because they don't have access to their funds, right? They lost. I know actually a neighbor of mine who he had funds on Voyager and he can't access anymore, right? And he's just an average Joe guy, working, doing his thing, he has a family and so forth. But Gary Gensler and the SEC are trying to get this judge to focus, what's a security and what's not? Oh my gosh, I don't want to use foul language here, but this stuff really pisses me off. They're not thinking about retail investors. They're just thinking about what they can do to slow down things and collect their fines. It's pathetic. It's disgusting. Gary Gensler's a clown. This guy needs to get kicked out of office. So the lawyer for the SEC even declined to take a definitive position in court on whether the Voyager token was itself a security. See, no guidance, right? No clear. They're not providing anything, and the judge is saying that. A judge is saying that. It just takes common sense to see this, right? And we had talked about this. Binance US was looking to buy out Voyager and its assets, and that would be good for users in getting their funds restored and some level of service restored as well. And here's actually, kind of a quote, a bit of a paraphrase. You are asking the debtor to prove that the cryptos being transacted are not securities, but you have given no regulatory guide as to what that is. Can you believe the nonsense, the clown show we're dealing with? The clown show, which is the SEC, and the biggest clown of them all is Gary Gensler running this show. Just look at this. This judge, once again, trying to figure this whole bankruptcy thing out, is calling out the SEC. Unbelievable, man. Now, Brian Quintenz was also at the Milken Institute today, and I've interviewed him multiple times. He was former CFTC commissioner. He's now at A16Z, and he had some statements. He said, what we have in the U.S. is a completely out of control federal regulator at the SEC that is violating its statutory mandate of investor protection. that is running roughshod over the Congress and Congress's intent to seriously adjudicate the issue, but not pass legislation on very ambiguous topics that are not agreed upon before, as well as running roughshod over the White House and an executive order that specifically respects the promises of this technology and the fascinating amount of innovation that it is going to unleash. So I think all around we're seeing the same sentiments that the SEC is a mess. Gary Gensler is a clown. They are not doing this right. But, Gary Gensler takes his orders from the incumbents, the banking incumbents, the ones who are filling his pockets. And this is what we're dealing with here. Now, Ron Hammond of the Blockchain Association, who's a frequent guest on this channel, he retweeted an article from Coindesk titled "Keep Crypto in America." The sub-headline is, if the SEC is serious about U.S. investor protection, it should want crypto to stay in the United States. Now, Ron retweeted that. He said, great comprehensive state of play by Emily Parker, who wrote the article. Coincidentally, the Financial Committee is having their first digital asset subcommittee hearing a week from today on this exact topic. Expect bipartisan pushback on the current approach from the federal regulators on crypto. Boy, I hope so. I hope we see a bunch of Democrats and Republicans come together and really drum up noise and push back on this, because once again, it's getting out of control, especially with the SEC. Now, Anthony Scaramucci, who I've had on the podcast many times, of course, the founder of Skybridge Capital. It looks like they're investing in Casper. And I personally don't hold the Casper token, but want to let you guys know about this. It's pretty big. Skybridge and Al Mascari holding partner with blockchain firm Casper Labs. Casper, which provides enterprise-grade blockchain services, also recently announced a tie-up with Google Cloud. So I don't know if some of you hold the Casper token, but this is pretty big. And let me give you some more details here. Here's a quote from Scaramucci. Casper is pretty unique because they're providing an enterprise software decentralized model. We think that it is not just for financial services, but could be used across the whole spectrum, including cloud computing. And the token, had hit a high of $1.33. It's currently down to 4 cents. But so, if one was so inclined, this is not financial advice, but that would be a nice entry point there, given how far it is from the all-time high. And, we got another bull market coming up, 2024, 2025. So, when there's blood on the streets, that's the time to get things done. But for those of you who don't know what Casper is, let me give you a quick overview. Casper Labs built a layer 1 blockchain that's meant to scale to meet the operational needs of businesses and governments, providing transaction transparency that can help boost revenue at a relatively low cost. Every design decision we've made for an enterprise and government usage, co-founder and CEO Rinal Manohar told Coindesk, if you think about most blockchains, the way they've been built is to almost create a shadow economy, in the sense that if an enterprise or government wanted to use that technology, it would mandate almost a full teardown of their existing tech infrastructure. So I'm going to look into Casper. Once again, I don't hold a token. I'll let you guys know if I do add it to my portfolio. But, as always, you got to do your research, not just because Anthony Scaramucci and Skybridge are, investing in this. You blindly go invest in it. You got to go look at the tokenomics, look at the partnerships and things like that, and what's been happening. And, that'll help you to make an informed and educated decision there. Finally, Caitlin Long, who I've also had on the podcast many times. She's the founder of Custodia Bank, Big Crypto, and Bitcoin Advocate. She tweeted out here, XAPO Bank. They said, we are pleased to announce we are the first bank to offer Lightning Network payments. Through our partnership with Lightspark, our members can now make faster, cheaper Bitcoin payments on the XAPO Bank app. She said, well, that happened faster than expected. A bank now offers Lightning Network payments. It's offshore, a Eurodollar bank, so out of the U.S. bank regulators' direct reach, shows how wrong U.S. bank regulators are to send all this activity offshore instead of inside the U.S. Regulated perimeter. So she's absolutely right. Once again, I don't care if you like Lightning Network or Bitcoin or not. That's not the point. I think the theme here is the innovation and the building should happen here in the United States. It shouldn't be sent offshore, and let the free market decide. Let's see who adopts to what and builds with what. That's what's part of what makes the United States great, and having that free market. So things are moving ahead, even though we got a lot of hurdles with the SEC. What do you guys think about what Ripple's general counsel said and summary judgment by the end of this month? I think we need to hear sooner than later, because the SEC needs to take a big loss here. And we got to keep exposing Gary Gensler. Call your representatives, make content, tweet, email, videos, whatever it is, guys. Get the news out there. We have social media to our advantage. And we're starting to see some of these crypto companies go on the offensive. So we have to join them as well, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you all later.